Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Elisa Sklar. I'm the VP of Marketing here at GIS Planning, and I'm very happy to be here today with Russ Riblet, our VP of Sales, and Stevie Field Chavez, our VP of Regional Sales. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
We are glad to have you guys here. So I am going to pass the baton here to Stevie, and she's going to get us started looking at the data tools.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We're just going to give you a quick couple of kind of takeaways on data and the importance of data. Before we kind of jump into it, I do want to just say a couple of really important key points about data. I'm not a data person per se, and so one of the things I think I want to communicate the most is making it visually interesting. It's a better way to absorb sometimes looking at a bunch of numbers and things that your eye may kind of gloss over. A picture says 1,000 words, so graphs, images, any type of information to make some of the data look more interesting. You want data that's easy to find and current, as well as try and get away from the PDFs if possible, and if you can, source your data. It's always important to source your data. So one of the things I'm taking you to here is our GIS tool. This is the site selection tool that allows the user to find a site or building based on multiple criteria. We're going to kind of jump ahead from the data, or from the business search, into some of the reports that we have listed, just to show you the ease of some of this data. So here we have a 10-mile radius around our location, but you can see that we have here our total establishment by size, establishments by, or employees by SIC code. We can chart this information, we can graph this information using kind of more of a breakdown format. I can export this information using PDF, Excel, or Word documents. So those are important because you're using the data in multiple different ways. So you also want to be able to look at multiple types of data. So we have our labor force, demographics, and consumer expenditures, all able to be customized from 0 to 60 minutes and 0 to 60 miles from any point of interest. It does not need to be your site or building. It can be an address. It can be a pinpoint on the map. I'm going to scroll down below. You can see some of the different visual formats that we used. And I'm going to try not to make you dizzy here. I wanted to show you, here we have our data sourced. So you always know that the data is the most current and up-to-date data that you can get. This information, that goes true with every data set that you use. Site selectors, when they're on your website and they're gathering the data, they're wanting to compare it to the most current data available, and so you want to make sure to provide them that. We also have our consumer expenditure information, which shows you where our residents are spending their money based on apparel, wages, I'm sorry, I hit it twice. Always during a webinar. Here's our consumer expenditure information. There we go. Here's our breakdown on where our residents are spending their money. Here's our wage and salary information, which is showing you by MSA a breakdown in occupations, as well as hourly and mean annual information, which comes to you by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And again, all this information can be exported in multiple different formats. Our business information is very different. It actually takes into account whatever specific geography you're interested in looking at, but it will actually hone down the information that you're looking at into various subcategories, which is really important because if you're looking at something really specific, you want to find kind of that relates to your project. So if I'm interested in finding out where all of our professional, scientific, and technical services are, maybe I'm interested in our architect offices and I'm looking for companies that are like the client that I have or the company that I'm trying to attract, I want to be able to gather that information and show that visually on a map. And again, all of this information is sourced and it's all interactive. Now, what I've done is just in this speed of time, I know we've kind of zipped through that pretty quick, but we're using Bergen County, New Jersey as our just our demo site. If you want to write this address down, it's a great site to go play around on. It's www.bergenforbusiness.com. You're able to look at, again, available properties and all the data that we showed, but all of those data formats that we just hit, demographics, business data, site and building, all that information can now be seen outside of the GIS tool in what we call intelligence components, which are embeddable anywhere on your website that you like. So I'm able to see, for example, that same demographic information that we just saw. I can see that underneath the demographics tab of the Bergen County site. So I can select city, county, or metro area. I can include an address if I'm looking at. So we're going to select any city here. I can look at the population, age distribution, and again, we've got that really pleasing visual interactive format. I can compare my chart. I can map it in a heat map signature, so it's just another heat maps, or thematic maps, you may hear them known as, are just another way to look at the same data. It's just a more visual way, so you can break down. So I can see in the darker red components, those are the areas that are very densely populated, and my more rural areas are those real light colored areas, as I see. You want that map to be interactive, and you want it on the fly. So I don't want to have to wait a long time for this data to upload. So it's important that any data that you get, that it's quick in responding and uploading, that you work with a company that is able to generate these types of formats so it doesn't take a lot of load time, because after, we're a pretty impatient society these days, and after a good 30 seconds or a minute, we're moving on to something else. So these are our demographic data. Here's that same business information that we were looking at earlier. Here I'm able to see not only business information, we've got a little bit of a delay because of our GoToMeeting, but I'm able to see clusters and various industries based on whatever is important to me or the client that I'm serving or trying to get. Amazon is a great example of that. I know that you all are all running around trying to get different your RFPs together and different data together, and so this type of on-the-fly data that's easy to generate and export is very valuable when it comes to putting together any type of RFP or report. So we're going to kind of scroll ahead here. Another really cool data tool that we've come up with is what we call our infographic. So this is kind of an aggregate of all of the data that we offer. So it's population, labor force, talent information. It's kind of broken up by different sections, but it's still an aggregate, so you just get a kind of an overview. It's still interactive. I'm still able to change the city or the county that I want to look at, but it really has all of this in a one-stop shop type of report that's exportable into different formats based on the information that I'm looking at. Again, here's some of the, these are the intelligence components that we offer, community infographic. The dynamic maps is our GIS. It shows various GIS layers, and these data points live outside of the GIS tool. I've also went ahead and downloaded a report for you so you can see just a rough example of what some of these reports could look like. This is just going to show me the overall population, again, age distribution, gender, and this is going to break it up so it's not only visually pleasing to the user, but it's got your branding and it's sourced at the bottom of the report so your user knows that this is current information that's available. Finally, in my portion of the presentation, I want to just touch on something that's very important, which is the ability to look at this in a mobile platform. So, again, it goes back into the response time, and you want something that's quick to upload. We offer a mobile website that's a separately built website for your smartphone and or tablet computer, and it allows that the same features that the GIS tool has in terms of searching for a site or building is also available in this, but you also get all of that data. And you can see, just as an example of how quick this is to respond to the requests that I have for clicking a button and looking at, okay, I want to see my demographic information or my labor force information. Just a couple of clicks. We all do too much work on our phone these days for this type of information to not be available in a responsive design type platform. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Russ, who's going to show you about our proposal generator, and then we'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Stevie. So I am going to talk about a couple things, but there was one question that was asked during Stevie's part of the presentation that I would like to address maybe as we go forward, which the question revolved around sort of the Amazon being the buzz component right now, but how do you use this data in your everyday life, and especially for our economic development organizations that are on the webinar with us today. All of these tools, the public-facing tools and the private part of this is what I'm going to show you right now, are all used in your everyday work, whether it's gathering data for a potential prospect or somebody who's just looking at your community and may not be in touch with you, or is looking for specific sets of data that maybe on a Saturday afternoon when we're out all enjoying our weekend and the business owners trying to make a decision on where they want to locate, and having the data available to them 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. So this is more than just the specific components of maybe an Amazon response. This goes to every day, and not only the work that our economic development friends do every single day, but being available basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so what I want to try and do now is kind of tie this, all the research that Stevie has shown you back to how do I present to a prospect that I'm working with. And so as part of the tool set that's available, we do have what we call a proposal generation system, or active needs is another term that we use, but basically a way for clients to respond to prospects in a kind of online rapid response format. This goes for states, it goes for regional organizations, counties, cities, anybody who's actively responding to clients and trying to provide them the information that they need. This is a way to do this. So I'm just going to hop into how this really works real quick. In terms of an active need, we have the ability to put information out there. If you're a state or a region or maybe a county and you want to communicate with other economic development organizations in your region about a specific project, have them respond to you with maybe specific properties or documents or pieces of the puzzle that you need to respond to the prospective client that you're working with, or even if you're a city and you're doing this on your own and you want to generate data and generate a proposal, all of those use cases work here. So the ability to define the project, the ability to look for specific pieces of information that we have or that the project might need. Or moving over to properties and properties that have been submitted back to you. You're going through a process, you're building the proposal. Revolves around properties, it revolves around data. Properties are one of them. These are properties that may fit with your potential client. The ability to edit a proposal or build a proposal, and we'll look at a couple finalized proposals here in just a second, but a tabular structure that allows you to be nimble and on the fly with responses that you may want to provide that specific client. We have sets of data that are going to be provided standard as part of this, but maybe your client is extra interested in workforce, or they're interested in incentives, and so the ability to communicate that information to the client in an online system gets us out of the ways of having to print PDF documents and send them, or send multiple emails to clients with all the information. Kind of centralizes all of this in one specific spot. So when we go through and we look at maybe what a proposal could look like when we're ready to send it off to a client, properties. So this goes back to the properties tab that we looked at just a second ago. These are all the properties that may meet the criteria for your client. The nice part about this is that we can click on any one of these and it'll take us right back to what Stevie was looking at on the public-facing site. Also take your client back to the public-facing site. So if they wanted to do additional analysis around a a specific property or a specific area within the community. They have the ability to generate all those reports based upon suggested properties that you've sent them, based upon the criteria that you are working under. A map, right? Again, we're a mapping company. Maps, visual. Stevie talked about visualizing the data and being able to see it. There's a map of all the locations of the properties that you're sending back to the client. Documents. We all know that we have to respond, especially through an RFP process. There may be documents that your client is looking for. Being able to attach those documents and include those in, again, an online format where you don't have to print every single one of those documents out. You're able to send them the response documents maybe from a partner or from the state or whoever it might be. Maybe you want to incorporate a welcome message, and maybe it's from your board chair, your mayor, the governor of your state, whoever it might be, welcoming your client to wherever you are working. We can include video, we can include documents, all sorts of different pieces to be able to communicate with your client. We talked about incentives and being able to maybe build a tab about incentives, specific incentives, or links back to incentive pages that might exist. That's all there. Maybe your client is interested in infrastructure and wants to see, you know, where the rail is, or those types of stuff. Or maybe it's you want to talk more about your airport or your ports, or, you know, whatever is important to the client, being able to explain that. Again, we talked about video and being able to embed video into the proposal. All of this then gets wrapped up and it gets sent back to your client. So full control over the data flows and the pieces of information that you're trying to send to the client. I'll show you one other couple screen captures of one, and I don't know if our friends from Idaho are on the phone or not, but this is a demo one that we've done recently with them. But you can see kind of a format, the nice looking format of it, putting some kind of unique touches on it with a header and a nice picture in the state of Idaho to kind of give an idea of what that might look like. Again, the property component to it, being able to link back out to the properties on the front end of the application, embedding video, and then having some additional contact information. You see both in the header and the footer there's contact information for the state contact in this case. And again, embedding the infographics or links. Stevie showed you the community infographics earlier, and being able to embed a specific example of the infographic, or even the intelligence components, being able to embed the intelligence components right into the proposal that you're sending back to your client. So again, this tried to bring this all full circle and bring this back together where you've done all this work researching data and responding or gathering the information that the client that you're working with is looking for, and now being able to have a tool and being able to respond back to them in a quick and efficient manner. You know, these responses used to take weeks, right? We used to have to send emails to, all of our partners and then have them respond with documents and properties and that. So now this is all contained within an online system, and the turnaround times can be much quicker, and it makes you much more efficient in the way that you're doing your job. So that's kind of the piece that I wanted to touch on, Elisa. I don't know if you wanted to. I'll throw it back over to you, or we can leave it here. And
yeah, let's leave it on your screen for a moment. Actually, okay. There was a couple things that I just wanted to reinforce. I think some really important details being shared here. First of all, the visual component of it, whether it's the infographics, sharing the heat maps, the charts, the graphs, each one of those individually exportable as well. Let's say you've committed to another kind of proposal format if you're not using the proposal generator, that you can simply and easily export from there, I think is really important to understand, because those visuals take this very complex data and make it understandable, and they also make for much more compelling and engaging proposals, because that itself is, of course, a marketing document. We do have a couple of questions here that I'm going to throw over to you and Stevie. One of them is a question: is there any no charge period, like a trial period for GIS planning software? Russ, do you want to chat about the
The answer really to that is no, but every single one of our applications that we've built are public facing. So the ability to, as like Stevie showed Bergen County, for example, to play and to look, if this is a data question, there are, zoomprospector.com is a national application that does incorporate some of the data sets that you saw Stevie with looking at. So if you're trying to analyze data for your community, zoomprospector.com would be a starting point for that.
Right. Actually, that's a very good point, because we're offering 1,000+ data points for every single community in the U.S., whether you realize that it's there or not. Site
Right.
selectors, businesses are using that all the time. So if you had Zoom Prospector Enterprise, then it would sync with it. Your properties would automatically be uploaded
Right.
there. But otherwise, they're custom-built software. So let's see. We have another question. That's zoomprospector.com. I will include that. Someone just asked me what the link is for that site selection
Sure.
portal. So I'll include the link to zoomprospector.com. That's the U.S. National Site Selection Portal in the email with the link to the on-demand video, so you can move to it from there. So another question that we have, obviously Amazon's HQ, this is, the big economic development prize. There's no question this would really change any community that want it, but there are other large bids that go out there, other big businesses, other, big and small, actually, that we need to be competing with. So one person asks, how is it possible to kind of leverage this RFP process for your own objectives? Even if you may feel like you have to prepare one, maybe you've been told you have to, even though you feel that perhaps your community truly doesn't meet those requirements specified in the bid.
And I think the answer to that, Elisa, when we think deeper about this, is that yes, this is one project, and this is a game-changing and life-changing project for probably any economic development organization, no matter how big the community is in which Amazon decides to locate in. But going through the process and having to understand the different requirements that Amazon has for their communities, and using the tools, the data that Stevie showed, to research and provide that sort of information, it's going to go a long way above and beyond just an Amazon response.
Right.
You are going to deal with many other clients that maybe not are on the scale of Amazon, but that 100-person manufacturing shop that may be looking at a couple different communities, and they're looking for specific pieces of information, and you're able to provide those specific pieces of information rapidly and readily to them. So I think that the educational experience of going through it, whether you're required to respond to the Amazon piece or not, really sets you up to be able to use these tools going forward in your non-home run, if we can put that term there with Amazon. Right. But for your day-to-day kind of operations, and again, don't forget, and I know we're all looking for that big win. Don't forget the businesses that are in your community already. I mean, we know how much percentage, whatever you subscribe to, 97, 98%, maybe 95% of all jobs come from existing businesses in your community. Use these tools to make sure they stay there. You've already got them, right? And so use them to make sure that they're aware that their market is there, or if they're looking to expand, that your community is the place to expand. Don't ever give up on them as well too. So.
Well, and in fact, the tool themselves, Zoom Prospector, and the intelligence components are actually a great source of market intelligence for them. You could be mapping suppliers and competitors and infrastructure and all sorts of things just using those tools. So important to keep in mind. We do have a question about talent data, that this being a notoriously difficult data set requires often many hours of research. Do you want to talk about how you can?
What was the question, Elisa? I didn't quite hear it.
Does a tool make it possible to access talent data?
Well, so we do have some talent. Talent is probably the biggest kind of, or the toughest data to kind of get your hands on. So we've taken an approach where we are capturing talent that's coming out of 2-year and 4-year colleges and universities, as well as trade schools, so as a foundation. But we know it doesn't necessarily address, let's say, underemployment or kind of the unemployed folks that do have talent within the communities. And so, that data is very hard to find. I do have clients who do sort of local surveys, potentially, of that kind of stuff. But to have a sort of a ready-made talent piece, really, I think the first kind of dipping our toe into it is to really sort of map the degrees that are coming out of those schools, as at least as sort of a baseline to understand, is my community rich in, let's say, nursing or engineers or whatever it might be, machinists, so those kind of, at least that are being educated at the 2- and 4-year in the trade schools, that's kind of the first piece to it, I think.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's important. And of course, that's also available now as an standalone intelligence component. You could put, if you had a web page within your site dedicated to talent, that's something that you could embed there.
I'm showing the talent data on our screen as you all talk.
Yes, thank you, Stevie. It's important. We've had clients say that this has literally saved many hours of staff time, being able to quickly access it and then export it. So what I think I might do, since we've come to the end of our time here, is bring us back to the question screen that we've got. Just so that you will know that if you have any questions that you can actually reach us. I'll put Russ's and Stevie's contact information up here on the screen. You'll receive the webinar video within the next couple days. If you have specific questions about using your tools, getting access to these tools, trying them out, please don't hesitate to get in touch, and we will be very happy to answer those questions for you. Anything else you'd like to add, Russ or Stevie?
I just would like to say thank you for everybody for taking a little bit of time out of your day, and hopefully we've provided some thought and some information that'll help you not only responding to the big home run projects, but in your day-to-day work as well too.
And I just agree. I'd like to say thank you as well. And as Elisa said, if you're interested in additional information or want to see these in a little bit more detail, please give us a call and we can schedule a go-to meeting where it's more, we can hear you talk, we can hear your questions, we can show you some live examples, walk you through it, make sure you have all the information you need to move forward.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much, and thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy days. We wish you very best of luck in this bidding process and in other ones to come. And we are here for you with any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.